Hi, I'm Coy Jandreau, and welcome to DC High Volume Batman. In this monthly companion series, we sit down with the cast and crew of DC High Volume Batman and beyond. Where we last left off in the story was the end of the long Halloween. After all these weeks, we know who the holiday killer is, and, spoiler alert, we're going to be sitting down and talking with her today. I'm so excited for this special oversized episode. As it's the end of the long Halloween, we thought we'd do 3 interviews to fully celebrate the experience. So we've got Marcella Lentz-Pope, who is our Gilda Dent, as well as Harvey Dent, Adam O'Byrne. And today, we're going to be sitting down the man who wrote this story, who brought us one of the most iconic Batman stories of all time, who continues to bring us some of the most iconic Batman stories of all time, the one and only Jeph Loeb. But first, let's bring out Gilda Dent, Marcella Lentz-Pope. I'm sitting down with Gilda Dent herself, Marcella Lentz-Pope, a storied actor of voice work and screen. I am so excited to dive into this. You might know her from Superbad, might know her from Social Network, might know her from Boardwalk Empire, might know her from League of Legends. The list goes on. But for us, she is Gilda Dent. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little embarrassed by that intro.
The build up to us talking about it, I was like, can I make it bigger than we've even started with?
It sounds very daunting.
The Mount Rushmore of the IMDb page is very strong.
You picked the best of the best there, the creme of the crop.
So for me, this is the best of the best because I have a very strong bias towards this character.
You do?
Gilda Dent is a character that I find to be a underrepresented, twisty-turny detective experience. And people don't give the payoff of, oh my God, that's where it goes enough to me with this character. As of this moment, the world knows. We'll get to that in a minute. But how did you get there first? I want to get your origin before we get to that moment.
So, interestingly enough, when we started recording, they'd ask me, okay, have you read it and everything? And my fiance is a huge comic book nerd. And I say nerd with all the love. So, of course, when I told him that I booked it, he immediately goes to his bookshelf. And he's like, oh, you mean this? Okay. And I was like, who are you? And he freaked out. I'm Gilda Dent. I don't know. I am not into comic books, not for a lack of loving. I just have other tastes. And so I started reading it. And then when we started recording, I hadn't finished it. So they were like, so have you read through it? I was like, oh, I haven't finished. And they're like, do you know
the contextualize the thing?
Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't. And then so they told me, can I say this? I can say this now, right?
Yeah, but isn't this crazy? You get to say it.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy. I'm the killer. So they're like, yeah, your holiday. Your holiday. You killed these people. And I was like, what?
You got the twist in real time. You got to live it.
No, seriously. I was like, you're kidding. All of a sudden, this character became so much more interesting to me.
You're like, I'll show up. We'll do some comic stuff.
Yeah, no, seriously. Because this was not what the audition was at all. The audition, I think it was the earlier scenes that you probably heard in, I think it was in the first episode. And when I saw the pictures of her, I kept thinking oh, she looks like such a fragile, weak woman. And then I was like, I can't think of her like that. One, I hate just deciding what a woman's like just because of what she looks like on the outside. We have no idea what's going on. And very, very strong women could be
why I like
weak
this
women.
character so much.
Oh my gosh, she's so awesome.
She's the definition of that.
Yes. You don't judge a book by its cover. And just because a woman looks a certain way doesn't mean that she's not a total badass.
Exactly the character. In illustration, in
oh
writing, in
also
your delivery. I'm so impressed at the way that you were able to bring this quiet, meek. You can feel her slightness in the verbiage, and you can feel it in your delivery of the verbiage. And that's really, I think, difficult to have only an audio representation of petiteness. If you haven't read this, I can tell she's small.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm not.
So it's regular person.
I'm a regular person, and I have a big personality as well. So getting to play that as well was really nice, and it was a nice kind of departure from other parts that I've ever been able to play. So that was really cool, and it's so grounded. She's so grounded. The entire project is so grounded. It was really great.
So the smallness being such an integral part of the reveal and integral part of the character, it was important to me as a fan of this, like your fiance, that the moment had to pay off.
Yes.
Because this is a murder mystery.
Yes.
And if you don't have that matter, then it's like, what have I spent
100%.
the last weeks on? And
No.
so that smallness, I'm wondering how you developed the voice to land that way. How do you find that and then listen back and go, she sounds small?
You know, this was the great thing about this project being so grounded. I wasn't necessarily thinking about I have to put on a voice. It was much more about the emotions that she was feeling. And if I truly was feeling the emotions that she was going through and reading the words that Jeph Loeb like brilliantly wrote, whatever voice came out of me would be the right voice. And I just kind of had to
Trustful. That's cool.
Yeah, you know. So I really, really was not worried about how I sounded. I really wanted to just know that, how did I feel? And if I'm feeling this, then hopefully the audience is feeling this. So I did make a decision, though, when voicing her, that I was not going to do the thing that some people do when they are the murderer, is like you know that you're the killer and you're saying these lines, so you should be thinking about you're the killer. So like, oh, I don't know. Who could be Holiday? I'm not sure. Like I do watch and listen to a lot of true crime.
Okay.
I do like my true crime. And the serial killers and the killers in real life, and when you interview their family and their friends, every single time, they're always like, I had no idea.
Right. You can't have it be someone that's like, they were a little off.
You know what? Yeah, they were kind of
Guess
like
that
a
tracks.
little, yes, they were always like, I had no idea. This came out of left field. Like, what? So I was like, okay, I'm going to play this entire first part not even thinking about her being the murder at all. It's just not in. She's just a mother. I mean, she's not a mother. She's a wannabe mother. She's a loving, doting wife. And I'm just going to keep it between Harvey and I and our relationship. And then when it gets to that end part, then we'll kind of focus on that. But right now, it's just our marital relationship and my personal struggle in being a woman and wanting to be a mother.
Yeah.
And I'm a new mother as well. And at the time I was even a newer mother. So there were a lot of things with Gilda that I was able to connect to and grasp onto and be like, oh, I totally understand where she is and where she's coming from.
And playing subtlety is so important, especially with the world's greatest detective. It's not even like, your friends in Nebraska didn't know. It's like Batman didn't know. Like you can't have that reveal come out of nowhere.
Exactly. You've got to really believe it. And I do think when the stakes are so high, even if you're not an actor, everyday Joe Schmo can lie. People can. You don't have to be an actor to be a good liar.
Right.
So if the stakes are so high and this is life and death and she doesn't want something this big of a secret to come out, she will be incredible at keeping that and no one will be able to know.
And no mustache twirling, which is nice. Like this didn't feel like, the underbelly. Because then again, that doesn't work because we have those villains. We literally have the rogues gallery of Batman.
For Batman, like this is so cool that she, like, whoa, turn around. She's the killer?
Yeah.
What?
We have that splash page.
Yes.
And I've always loved the dichotomy of the imagery and now the sweets of that splash page of just this cacophony of like evil and vibrancy and so much. And then it's like Gilda. Because it's like the next page.
Yeah.
And I love that format. And I love the way that we brought it to life here where you've got Batman taking out all of the icons that we've grown up with. You've got all of this intensity.
Yes.
And then somehow the intensity of a small moment is bigger. And I'm curious for you, what was it like to hear that for the first time, knowing that it's like
well, when we were recording, we did, I don't know how many, we did a lot of takes for the last monologue, a lot. When we tried many different ways of going, I mean, I was at a 10 the whole time, like I was total psychotic, for some of them. We really were trying to figure out like, where is she? And then we did a few that are kind of similar to what actually was chosen, which was kind of this underplayed, she still is small because that's who she is, but there's a passion there.
Yeah.
There's an energy and there's a drive. And that drive, that focus, that drive is what kind of makes her want to be a mother and also what makes her do anything to be a mother. It was kind of surreal listening back to what they chose because I'm going through like all the different takes that we did. Like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. And And of course, being completely judging myself the entire time as well, because I'm an actor. But the end part, like, it really brought it home for me.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, that's, and not to pat myself on the back, but I was just like, oh, that was perfect. They chose yes, that landed so well.
And you got to say one of the most iconic lines,
I know.
in my opinion, in all of Batman. Like, I believe in Harvey Dent is such a moment.
I know.
And the only time I'll wonder, did your fiance go, you get to say the thing?
Oh my God, no, yes. Oh no, he immediately was like showing me the panels and like, this is you, this is you, this is you, this is you. And when I saw I Believe in Harvey, I mean, he didn't tell me that I was Holiday or the murderer or anything. So I'm just looking, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I've seen that in the movies. Like, oh, that's cool.
I know that one.
I was like, oh, yeah, I know that one. Oh, cool. Like, oh, that's a really cool picture. I'm like, and it was also just cool, like, me only knowing Batman through the movies and the cartoon show and just like what a non-comic book fan would know about Batman.
Right.
Me finding out that Gilda was the murderer instead of some psychotic crazy clown, or tooth fairy or whatever, crazy villain. That was also like, oh wow, oh this is different. This is a different story, a different style. And then of course listening to it, it's incredible. Oh my God.
It's such an experience.
The first episode of year 1 that I was listening to, I was driving, and after 5 minutes, I literally had to pull over and just listen to the rest of the episode. Luckily, I wasn't going anywhere like, I need to get there.
Why are you late?
Yeah, sorry, guys. I had to listen. But like literally just pulled over to listen to it because I was like, I like when I'm listening to close my eyes. So I wanted to just like close my eyes and pull over and like fully give into it. The mix, the sounds they have of Gotham City, of like the foots, everything, it is so good. And it very much reminded me of, the radio plays back in the 40s. And that is something like that has always been a huge like tick off my bucket list to do a radio play of some sort. I used to listen to them with my parents.
And what a one to do.
Love them. And then like doing this was like, oh my God, this is my radio play.
And what a noir. This is such in tone. This is like a detective story.
Completely. Like, this is my noir radio play. Like, oh my God, I'm checking this off. This is incredible. So yeah, that was
And that's why I love comic books, because to me, a lot of people have an idea of what comic books are. Yeah. To me, a lot of people have an idea of even what Batman is. But then it's like, oh, I love 20s noir radio plays.
Yes.
We got one.
There's a version of every kind. That is something that I have learned through my fiance, because like, I was very naive when we first started dating of like, oh, comic books are just all like this. And he's like, no, let me show you the world. It was very Aladdin. I can show you the world. And like, that's kind of cool.
And you're one.
I can get into that.
Yeah, there's such an approachability once you realize like there are options and it's not one thing.
Yes.
And year 1, I think, is a great way for people to get like, okay, the origin isn't even what you think. And there's so, especially listening to it, the Gotham character becomes so much more prevalent in audio.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it's a great
Foley work is just like so good.
And the soundscaping is so immersive that it moves around you.
It's like immersive theater, like completely, which is why I was like, I have to pull over. This is, and then I actually listened to the second episode at home on our surround sound, which was such a trip.
You've done what I did. I listened to the first 4 in different ways.
Oh my God.
So I specifically made sure each was a different experience.
Third episode, I was on my headphones.
Yep.
Fourth, I think, was back in the car.
I did car.
Yeah.
I did. I have these like 4-foot Kef floor speakers, like the Marcella ad, where you're like, I wanted that to be a thing, so I just sat there like Batman, and that was crazy. And then I did one with headphones because I wanted to see like if I felt that weird like back of brain tickle when it like listens a certain way. And then the fourth one I did with people as like an event. Like I had people listen with me to see if it affected. If I was like checking in on people, like that thing, you're like, I like this movie, you guys good?
But also like hearing like, where do they laugh? Where are they like,
because we know comic fans know the story so well. I was like, I can try that with the big speeches.
So you had the story like completely memorized when you were listening.
I
like
think
you knew.
Long Halloween and Year 1 are 2 of the things that I could like almost recite.
Wow,
like they're both so formative to Bat fans.
Yeah. Okay.
So I personally,
it's incredible.
Well, it's such a that's why Gilda means a lot to me, because it's one of those books that I gave to people when I was like, oh, I don't know if you'll like all comics, but this is for everyone. That's
so. My fiance does the same thing when he like meets people who are interested in comics. He like curates the
100%.
like 4 or 5 comments, like this will be a good one to start you here, and like this will here, and then like don't worry about getting back to me, just enjoy.
Yeah.
But like he loves curating little sets to give to people.
I did a show called Comic Book Shopping where I interview people and in real time pull books based off their answers.
Oh my gosh.
So I love doing it to the scale of like, let me
It's
give
your
you
love
an entire,
language.
100%. Comic,
Yeah.
that's the 5th love language or 6th. Comic books, there's recommendations. But the Long Halloween's one of the consistent ones where it's like, it's not for a personality type, it's for a people's. Like most people will get something, whether they're identifying with Harvey, whether they're identifying with Batman or Bruce or both. But Gilda, no one's gonna expect. And that's what's fun is she's, like if I'm like, a housewife that doesn't want to raise her voice too much, you'll like the Long Halloween and you'll have a really special time.
I mean, honestly, this is how naive I was when I auditioned. I was like, oh, Gilda Dent, Harvey Dent's wife. Okay, another doting wife part. Like, okay, cool. Like, done that before. Like, just another role where a woman is just all she is who she married to. You know. So like having that whole turn was just like, oh, this is so delicious.
And doing it in audio, I'm curious with your on-screen work and audio work. There's such different animals in the actual act of doing them.
Yes.
Like you're in a booth, no one's with you. You've got mere feet. What was that like, and how does it differ most for you?
You're right, but also at the same time, acting is acting.
Still a performance.
It's still a performance. But I do think instead of with some animation or video game work that I would do, where maybe I am slightly putting on a voice or morphing my voice to do something different. Like I said before, this was something where I was not focusing on my voice. I was focusing on the emotions, on the feeling, on the character herself, and just keeping her as grounded as possible and as real as possible. Not thinking, oh, this is a performance. I really, really didn't want it to come off like that this was some this thing, you know. This is just a woman at home and she's just talking to her husband. And there's a lot going on for sure, but I didn't want to think about it as like this big thing. And that's, I think it's a kind of a plus in this world. Like you can actually escape and listen to this film noir without minus the film and completely escape into this world. And it still feels real. It doesn't necessarily feel heightened. It doesn't necessarily feel like an animated series, which I love animation completely, but it is very different.
Yeah.
It kind of teeters between animation and on camera. It was really fun. And I love what I do. I love working. I love working in any job, but some jobs are just more fun than others for whatever reason. And she was just so much fun.
I like that you can visualize things with this format so much so that like the Gilda of your mind becomes so much more figurative. Like you can imagine her in the way that you perceive her.
Yes, but also at the same time when we were recording, the panels were right up on my screen next to.
As a fan of the comic, I love that. So
I was able, and the writing, they were completely honoring what Jeph Loeb wrote. Like, so having her up there and I'm seeing her and I'm saying the lines and then looking back and forth, like it was able to kind of like keep me in just the right mood and the right feeling. I honestly think that's why the entire series feels so cohesive because everyone was looking at the same artwork.
Yeah.
So we're all staying in that same world. Like if you start to drift or you're just looking, oh, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay. It ground the artwork.
And for people like me that
you.
have it up here, it's really cool because we get to go like, that sounds like it looks.
Yes.
Like I haven't had the audio.
Yeah.
I've only had this.
Yeah,
now I've got
so
the
true.
audio. So
That's
it
so
adds
true.
this level, which is great.
No, completely.
And the visual of Tim Sale's art to me is so important.
I want to get some of them blown up and put
Oh,
in my
it's
house.
so special.
So beautiful.
And like so unique. Like his style is so specifically Tim Sale. But what I love about it is the animosity and passion and love, like all of that with Harvey, that's clear.
I know.
And it's so unique because we don't have a lot of time with them.
No.
But the time we have gives you all of this color for what happens.
Well, I think like that's something that is the bonus of comic books. Like, and this is from an outsider's point of view, what I notice that comic books tend to be mostly visual and there are words, but because the words are like so small and like a little bubble or here or there, the artwork is doing most of the talking for the words.
Yeah.
So you're getting the story without necessarily needing to read. So when there are words, they're incredibly important. So getting an entire relationship point of view across in just these few words, they have to be the right words.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful.
And Jeph Loeb, a wordsmith. But I feel like the way he made Harvey is so impactful that the twist isn't just about the murder or the Batman element. It's about like a Harvey element as well.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of an inversion of what you were talking about before of like, oh, Harvey's wife. So speaking of Harvey Dent's wife, but also, you know, this situation where he is the husband of a holiday killer, which adds a dynamic to even Two-Face, who is the more known character in the greater universe. Is this it? Is this the killer? Do you think, is it solved? Is that everything from your perspective?
Well, first, I kind of think Gilda is also two-faced. I mean, on one side, she is this very strong woman who desperately wants to be a mother, and have a family and have a home and just be a great wife and just have that life. And then on the other side, she is a murdering psychopath. Yeah. She's two-faced.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've never even thought of it that
they're
directly.
kind of a husband and a wife duo.
And they're kind of like the other's half.
Yes.
Which is the beauty of marriage, but not in this case.
Completely. And they both think that they're doing the right thing.
Right.
So that's my first little take. And did you get, oh God, okay, all right. I want to say, yes, they did the right thing because I want Gilda to get away because I feel like, you know, one, she was just killing the bad guys.
Yeah.
She's just getting rid of the
guys
that
staying down. Batman, they get back up.
Yeah, honestly, isn't that not what Batman is doing? He's just not killing them. He wants the bad guys to all come out and serve for their time and their cruelty and all that thing. He's just not killing them. She's just like, I want the same thing. I just want them dead.
It's a permanent way to do the same job.
I mean, so I'm kind of like, you know, is she that bad of a character? She's not just like killing random people. She's not doing bombs or anything. It's very specific.
True.
But at the same time, it's like, no, she got away. And for sure.
For sure. But do you think that's morally the right? Like, I love how ambiguous this book is. I love how interpretive it is.
Don't you love my ambiguous answer?
No. So do you have a take that is as ambiguous as
I have a take for both.
Two-Face, everyone. By the way, here is your answer. The duplicitousness of this character is really wonderful, but also you talking about the different ways you played her. Were there moments in the booth that especially stood out once you knew the twist? Or I love that you didn't mentally prepare for that, so it was like waiting, but do you have any highlights from the booth where you were like, oh, that feels like the person that's been underneath that I was saving for the beginning?
I would say I think like the third or fourth take of the monologue, she really started like getting under my skin in a good way, which is like kind of weird to say, you know, she's a murderous killer. But like I really started to kind of feel like, oh, she's here.
Yeah.
Which is so bizarre and very actory of me. Which I always hate when but like there is this kind of like possession that happens when like everything just the words come together, your voice is just in that sweet spot and you're kind of like I don't know what's going to keep coming out of my mouth and how it is, but like I'm in the zone. And I remember it was like third or fourth, but I remember in the moment it happening and being aware outside being like, oh God, this is it. Like, this is it. Like, she's there. And it was very powerful. And I remember afterwards, there was silence for a while. And I was very embarrassed. Like, oh God, oh no.
Was that not it?
Was that like just too much or like, shoot? And it was just dead. It was like crickets. And I remember I had to be like, yeah, I can do it again. If that would like do, and they're like, no, that was, wow, Marcella, that was like really powerful. And it felt really amazing. And I was like, you know, that felt good. It felt really good. So I remember that. I also remember a very different take of doing her first scene in the Halloween scene, opening the doors for the trick-or-treaters. When we were filming this, it was in October, right around Halloween.
Cool.
And we had just taken our my new baby boy on like a practice trick-or-treating thing like a couple days before we were recording this.
That's so cute.
And so like opening the door, like talking to the trick-or-treaters was just so like, oh my God, like this is me as a mom doing this. And like this woman wants to be a mom. And I just so like, I was just so in it in a way. And I was able to be like, oh gosh, if this was a year ago before I was a mom doing this scene, I know I would have a different perspective.
Wow, that's really cool that life reflected
Yeah.
art in real time, but also that it was the season for that.
It was, yeah,
like
it all
everything
kinda
lined
came
up
together.
for that to really be
But I
impact.
really did feel like, and listen, we're actors, I can play anything. I can play a non-mom and I can play a mom and it doesn't matter. But there was something to like me being a mom, playing this woman who desperately wants to be a mom, talking to these children, and like there was something slightly different in how I was because I am a mom. Sorry to get all cheesy
No, that's
for
so
you
cool.
folks.
No, I love when art is able to reflect life to
and I
the
remember
artist.
that, and I was just like, oh my God, this just feels like, oh, I was here. I'm here. I know this. I know this. I can do this.
I got this.
I got
this.
this.
Is
Yeah.
And I love that the audience in the room
Yeah.
had the same experience of your flow state, like that.
Yeah.
It all impacted you.
Yeah.
Now I assume my next question was about empathy for her, but I feel like clearly it's there. How
Yeah.
much do you feel like you identified with the character at any stage, or was it always like once you figured it, or once you were revealed the moment, like did it all kind of click into place?
Oh no, I had empathy for her from the beginning, just knowing that she was a woman who husband worked too much and she wanted a family and she's been waiting for a family and she wanted to be a mother. I'm also someone who was like wanted to be a mother my whole life and just like could not wait to be a mom. So immediately right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's my in.
Yeah.
That's my aunt, 100%. I get her. Yes, she may be quieter. She may be meek, whatever you want to call her. But she and I get that. I know exactly where she's coming from. And I know what she wants and the pain that comes with wanting that and not getting it. And also knowing that the time with you men, you beautiful, lovely men, do not need to experience this part. But us women, we do have a little going away. So like knowing that she's going through that, and I went through that for so long in my life, immediate empathy.
Well,
Immediate.
it shows in the work. It
thank
really
you.
like affects the performance in a way
Thank
that
you.
I love the comic, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's a ness that can't translate in the emotion of all those sensibilities. Like many are translated in Tim Sale's art and Jeff's
Yeah.
work, but there's such a layer of like Jason's work as Batman, the discovery of the Batman
Incredible,
voice.
by the way.
Oh my God.
My God.
But you get to feel the discovery in a way that the two black and white colors can't quite, but like the feeling, and I got that out of the emotion for the motherhood. I got that out of the yearning, and that was really wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh
my
God,
last
that's
question
so
for
sweet.
you. The mom mode I felt, and I got like a young mom. Me and my mom are really close.
I
and
love
so like
that.
I've always had like that mama's boy
Call her after
nature.
this interview.
She's
okay.
the best.
Go call your mother.
With Gilda being a character that is so impactful to Long Halloween, and the Long Halloween being so impactful to Batman. But in my opinion, Gilda not being like a top, like people don't go, oh, Batman's Gilda.
It's a crime.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a character of import.
When we finished and I had read through it all and finished recording, I asked my fiance, I was like, why have I not heard about this? Why have I not seen this? Why has it not been made word for word?
This is how comic fans have felt for a very long time.
Really?
I think it's really interesting because this is now word for word. It was waiting for you to get to it. But I think The Long Halloween is one of those stories that you see pieces of everywhere Batman.
Really?
It's one of those really formative stories that you'll see. I mean, Nolan wrote the foreword to this edition. Like, The Dark
way.
Knight has, if you think about Harvey Dent, Gordon, and Bruce Wayne, or Batman in that case, on the roof, that is Long
That's from
Halloween.
this.
If you think
Oh
about
my
Falcone, if you think about so like when you think of the story, now you can start to see its sprinklings.
They take pieces of it, but like
The opening of the Batman
but
with
the
the new
thing
one, the Pattinson one, him reading like
I get that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, there's definitely pieces for sure. But like the entire book, it's so good as a whole. It's so beautiful. Why hasn't someone just taken it and you're like, we're going to take this story, not bits and pieces, and put it into something else? Why are we not going to take this story and create this? Why is Gilda not getting her day?
There's an animated two-parter that is a loose adaptation that is very good.
Okay.
This is word for a reason,
Yes.
because the people, in my opinion, the people that have waited for this,
They want it.
are the team that made this.
Yes,
Like we are the nerds that are like, give us the Long Halloween. So I think what's happening is you, as a fan of Batman and the casual nature of knowing Batman, have now reached the level where the nerds have been fighting. And so welcome, it's awful. But now we've done it, so now it's peaceful. As of this release of this last
now
week,
I
it's
want
like
more.
I know. And but hey, we're making it happen. We're chipping away.
I hope so.
Nolan
I
is the
would love
start,
to
and
see-
then us. That almost answers my question without me even having to ask. But what do you want people to take away from Gilda now that the twist, the last thing they heard was that reveal? How do you want people to walk away feeling about Gilda now?
Maybe a little bit of empathy for her if they were just thinking, oh, this cold-blooded killer. Maybe just a little bit of empathy of where she was coming from. Again, remember, she's killing bad guys. Bad guys. They're not good guys. So, there's a little bit of like, I feel like she gets a little leeway there, maybe. I don't know.
The Robin Hood approach to murder.
Yeah, to murder. She is still murdering people. But just don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what someone's plight is. You never know what they are experiencing inside, what hard day they're having or what a great time. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And also, like, leave space for the quiet ones.
Ooh, I like that. I'm glad I said that for the end. I like that a lot. That's perfect. Well, no better note to end it on. Leave some space. Call your moms. People are all going through something. Make sure to give them their reverence and space. Yeah. Absolutely lovely talking to you, Marcella. That was such a pleasure.
Thank you. This was super fun. This was great.
And I loved your work. Thank you for bringing so much to this character.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
I want to thank Marcella Lentz-Pope for joining us today. I loved that conversation. I loved her energy. That was such a genuine blast. It's so crazy how big of an energy she has and how somehow small and contained the character feels even over audio and how important that is for the portrayal and the mystery. Everything was a lovely conversation. Now let's bring out Harvey Dent, the other side of that dynamic duo, Adam O'Byrne. I am honored to welcome Adam O'Byrne. You might know him from Lessons in Chemistry on Apple. He is our Harvey Dent, and now he is our Two-Face. How are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
It is an honor to welcome both of you. It is a long time coming. What a journey.
Yeah, for sure.
This character's so impactful and large and such a big moment in Batman mythos, but he's also such a pop cultural icon separate. Like, he's a known entity. But I'm curious, how did you come into this project, and what was that like having him as a known entity and then developing your take on him?
Sure. So I am of the age where my Batman is Michael Keaton. Like, I remember being a kid and going to the theater for a friend's birthday party to see the first Michael Keaton Batman, Jack Nicholson. And so that era really was the for me, I mean, I don't know how old I was at the time, but that was really those movies up through, the two Keaton ones, the Val one, and then the Clooney one. Those were the movies. That's how I got into Batman, really. And so, I mean, like anybody, you're sort of always defined, I think, by the initial one, the hook, and I guess it's is it the third one that Two-Face makes an appearance?
Yes. Yeah. He was originally supposed to be Billy D. Williams when they were going to make a third one.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Tommy Lee.
So Tommy Lee did it in a very sort of over-the-top kind of fantastic performance. That guy is unbelievable, obviously. But that was sort of my initial exposure to that character. And then obviously Aaron Eckhart's in the films, which is again absolutely wonderful, and so those were the things that were kind of pinging around when I got the audition, I confess that I was not that I didn't. You come into these things, you read them, and you're just sort of trying to kind of fall back on your actor training and just like, I'm going to play these scenes and try and find the truth of who this guy is. And yeah, I mean, I didn't, I'd read The Long Halloween probably around, when was it? 95? Yeah.
30th this year.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So I had read it, I would imagine somewhere around there, like when I would have been end of high school, beginning of college, and I'm sure I remember. So I was vaguely familiar with the story and I knew what was happening. And I think really what I wanted to do was, in the audition particularly, was just kind of, as I say, find the truth of what this guy's going through. And I think that it's a the reason I think that it has such resonance and has been around for so long, as we're talking about, is that it is it is somebody who is fighting the good fight, who believes in something, who has some kind of moral integrity, And that moral integrity is aggressively challenged by the circumstances in which he finds himself. So that is a really interesting thing to explore as a performer. And then also, of course, we're doing this in a different medium.
Sure.
We're doing it in audio form, and that was new and exciting. It was a blast to dive into. It's such a cool role, and the story is wonderful. So it was very easy it was an easy pool to dive into for sure.
The character has always fascinated me, and it's always been one of the characters that I feel like would be a dream as an actor, because comics to me are this Trojan horse of morality. They're this way to look at ethics and like how you choose to be and present yourself. And then a lot of the Cape comics have an alter ego, and Two-Face to me is like the definition of all of that. Like, he's morals and ethics, and he's visually the thing that makes comics interesting.
For sure.
So as an actor, when you're playing two sides of a literal coin, that is the metaphor of a coin, that is having all these layers, where do you start? Like, how do you go, okay, this is a lot to unpack. I could go mad finding the madness or the morality. What's day one look like in trying to develop them?
Yeah, I think it was really just figuring Harvey out before, and just understanding what it means to feel passionately about public service, what it means to feel passionately about the place that you live and the people that you serve, when that is going sideways, what do you feel you have to do? I mean, that's the thing I think is so compelling about Harvey, is that he really cares about Gotham. He cares about how it's gone askew, or how things have drifted away from the ideals that he wants it to represent. And so I think that was the easy in for me, really, is just kind of figure that this guy really cares about this place. He wants this place. He doesn't want it overrun by crime. He doesn't want, he wants people to be able to live safely and happily and flourish. And so when you find that, you sort of ground it there. And then, honestly, like the easy part is sort of taking the other side of that, because I think what's interesting about Harvey and Two-Face is that the things they believe in a way, are the same.
Yeah.
But the means of getting there are obviously very different. There's a moral integrity to Harvey, that this is, you do things this way. I mean, that's not to say that he doesn't. I mean, it's wonderful writing where he's sort of dripping in cynicism, which is fantastic. There's something really enjoyable about that. A guy who's like really cares, but also just goes, "Oh, this is such a pain in the ass. This is like so everything's screwed up. How am I going to deal with this? I'm standing on a roof of a building talking
There's a guy dressed as a bat.
Exactly.
There's this one good cop.
Exactly. We have one good police officer and a guy in costume, and a costume vigilante. And you're like, oh God, what have I got myself into?
I went to law school.
Yeah, exactly. but I think then so really, what's the sort of tragedy of the man is that he gives into the temptation, right?
Yeah.
To say like, no, there's an easy way to solve all my problems, and that is to turn my back on the things that I think are sort of the spine of my own morals and ethics. And I mean, I think that was the path that I took, such as it is, to finding where we are. Yeah.
And did you feel that transformation, like as a performer, when you're performing the Harvey Dent versus letting the cynicism take over? This is so Shakespearean in that there's a physical attribute. There's an actual act that occurs. When you're performing, if you're actually in the booth going through that, does it feel physically different to be one post-scarring?
Absolutely. And I think if there was just a silent film of me in that booth, it would have been very, very funny, because you are sort of going through these physical changes. And I mean, one of the things that obviously, the only instrument that you have to express what's going on is your voice. And so you are trying to manipulate yourself physically. You're trying to, I'm sure I was standing up straighter and trying to, get a sort of more, a bit of a deeper resonance. I mean, I would say that like from purely technical standpoint, like my Harvey was sort of, I would say I felt more like chesty a little bit. Like I kind of was like, he's leading with his chest, he's a very proud guy. And then Two-Face sort of got into the rasp of like an injured, I sort of thought about the injury to his, because I think when you look at the comic, it's sort of like it's all kind of down into his neck and everything. And I think that's, you just sort of think of like, I mean, really people who've had any kind of injuries, they talk about referred pain, where so you're holding tension here and then it's going to affect the other side and then it's going to like, make your voice sound, I mean, that's not to say that I was doing. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I was using my imagination to see how that would be reflected. Yes, exactly. So
we're drinking hot coffee.
No,
like,
right. Yeah, exactly. But I think when you're in the booth, you sort of have to you're just doing your best to be truthful to those lines, and then trust that the everybody on the who's helping from the outside is gonna steer you in the right direction, serve as those guardrails. So yeah.
The trifecta on the rooftop is one of the most iconic scenes to me.
Yeah.
We spoke of it briefly a second ago,
sure.
But to me, that's like what Batman is, because that's what Harvey is, because that's what Jim is. And that's such an interesting dynamic of they all want the same thing. All three of them. 5 of them, if you count Two-Face and Batman as separate entities to Bruce. Like there's an army up there of ideals, but the relationship between them is what makes this story so interesting for me. Of they all trust in the other to a point, but they all have different landings of what they want that to mean.
Yeah.
How did you develop that relationship, since you didn't get to actually, work with you had the words, but you didn't get the emotion until you get to hear it pieced together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the start with the words, that's very important. You sort of look at the scene and how it's structured, and you're absolutely right that there's that idea of this triumvirate of somewhat shared like Venn diagram vision of what the city can be and should be. I mean, I think that's the one thing, is that they really share an understanding of the problem.
Yeah.
I think they're probably all looking at it from different points of view. So it, in that sense, it's a very three-dimensional problem for them. And I think their point of view is significant in their understanding of it. And I think one of the things that they're probably not very good at, and I talked a little bit about this when we were prepping, is that I think they're very bad. Batman's maybe the best, but the other two are very bad at acknowledging the perspective of the others.
Yeah.
So they're very sort of like, this is the only place that I can look at this mountain from. You know what I mean? And so
we have one thing we can do. I don't know.
Yeah. So that I think was one of the things that, this idea of, I'm happy I'm here with these other two guys. I really wish they saw it my way, because what they're talking about is stupid, or just not stupid, but just not productive to solving the problem. And I think that's kind of the fun tension there, because they're not. Because I think also there is a mutual respect. There is because they have a shared ideal, they have a level of respect. I think your word that you used, Coy, when you said that the trust only goes so far, I think that's really key, because I think that's where it ultimately kind of breaks down, that because they can't maybe share enough of each other's perspective, they don't quite have that trust that is necessary to form a lasting partnership.
And a way that they can actually lean each other enough to actually be productive. I've always liked the idea that like what they could have done, who they could have been.
Yeah.
And now thinking about it, I mentioned 5 of them on the roof, but in this story of all, it almost feels like this in year 1, Jim Gordon's almost 2 men, like who he is at home versus who he is at the force.
Yeah.
And all these men are hiding something.
Yeah.
So how do you trust that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the tragedy of the story, really. That there is great potential there in that moment, and to see it dashed, I think takes something. Obviously, it takes an enormous amount from Harvey, but I think it weighs on the other two as well.
And I think The Long Halloween in particular is so mineable for this psychology, and I think that's why we see it adapted, or pieces of it adapted in so many ways.
Sure.
And to see it, for me, in the animated 2-parter was already a dream, but to see it adapted here so literally, like to see word to word, we're getting the experience of it. And I think the reason it can be is because it's, as we're discussing, there's different ways to play it. Like you can play Gilda different ways and she's still
100%.
authentic to her.
Yeah.
And there are ways to play Two-Face. And one of the things I loved about your take is that there's this empathy for the madness. There's this, like, you're not playing him mad, you're playing him in a way that you can feel the reserved, but it's not toning him down. It's a really fine line of like holding something back. And I think that's an interesting take on the other side of Two-Face because of how much you see them as one. Like, you're right, the brain isn't different.
Yeah.
It's just the impulse control or whatever broke in him.
One thing, takes over, but I think that at its core, it's the same guy, and he just can't. I think, as I said, I think there's elements of the cynicism and the way the cynicism leads to nihilism or leads to real fury about, it's sort of that again, we keep coming back to that rooftop scene, but the sort of the resignation that he has as Harvey of like, God, I guess this is my job, to when he becomes Two-Face, that it is that there's sort of righteous anger about that is my job, that this is what has happened to the thing that I care so much about, and I'm going to do something about it in a way that Harvey maybe would be more reserved about doing, and sort of just complaining and sighing heavily or whatever. but I think that's absolutely right.
And now that we've gotten to this point in the story, it feels like the time to ask the question because it's not as spoilery, because we know. Are there any highlights from the booth, any moments that you remember that you're really like, that was it, I found the guy, either one of them, but like found the moment that you connected fully to Two-Face or Harvey?
Yeah, I mean, I was writhing around on the floor at one point, which was, when he's attacked, and it was, that was pretty fantastic. But also, in a way, like, I think that kind of clued me in, because I was writhing around, literally, like screaming, writhing, going down to the ground. And I was like, what is happening? Like, at some point you're like, what am I doing? You're like, look around, you're like in this tiny booth, like, what is happening? But it really, I think one of the things that it did do in a good way, because I really let myself do it, was that it brought home the trauma of that event, and how that contributed. You start thinking like, oh wow, like this is not, this is there's real pain here, physical pain, but also psychological pain that has created this bifurcated guy. And so that moment really stuck out to me, I would say, quite a bit.
One of the things I've always appreciated is that impact of the moment. I love that you felt that to use in your work, of that would be a traumatic experience in all the ways, because it isn't just a Tuesday. His life is forever changed, but then Gotham is forever changed.
Exactly.
And I'd love to know, as my last question for you, reflecting on your time as Harvey Dent and Two-Face, and with the character having such an impact, what would you hope people take away as like your take? What did you want to imbue that you hope people walk away with as your Harvey Dent?
Well, I mean, that's the
most loaded question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. But I mean, like, I honestly think that the thing that I felt most about him is, again, getting into it and realizing how well crafted this character is, that you're not really needing as an actor to put anything on it, in the sense that if you trace it chronologically through the story, it's not some crazy, like, I'm a bad guy.
Mustache twirl.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a very much a like a human thing. And I think that if that's what I hope is clear about all the characters, that this is something that it is a really wonderful reflection of humanity that we're seeing in all of these different people. It's a really human, these are true feelings that I hope people can identify with a lot of the aspects of Harvey, and then also some of the aspects of Two-Face, because I don't want people necessarily to identify with the violence, but certainly the urge to rip it all down, the urge to say enough is enough. These are things that I think make him a compelling character and somebody that, and it's true. Look, it is obviously true for me having played this part, but I think what it's done for me about the whole universe of Batman and the quote unquote bad guys is that you do start to appreciate how human they are
and how they ended up in that position.
Exactly.
That wouldn't have,
and that you're not like, oh, these are just these sort of like literally cartoon foils to our hero.
Right.
They are other sides. They are other parts of the human experience. And I just think, having all their own tragedies and personal hangups and peccadillos that really that lead them where they obviously they don't go down a great road in their lives, but a lot of people don't go down a great road in their lives.
Gotham sets you up for that.
Exactly.
I love that Gotham is this great equalizer of like, well, we kind of get it. And for me, Two-Face is always that question of like, what if Batman used his money to fix the city? What if he got into politics and tried to do it the right way?
Right.
And it falling apart always was like, well, that's why he has to be Batman.
Yeah.
So to me, Two-Face was like, and then when he broke, I loved that your performance felt like I got to live that Elseworld. Like that, like, oh, and this is why the politics side can't work in Gotham.
Yeah.
And a great performance, really great experience. Really
thanks,
loved it, man.
Thank you very much. This was fun. I had a great time. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful project that sort of was a delightful surprise for me, and I had so much fun.
So since you record this in isolation, there's a character you interact with, and I don't know if you know who that is in our like real canon. There's a person you murder in the hospital, and it's a doctor.
Okay.
Do you remember the scene?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So he has that dramatic line, like, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's going to be Jeph Loeb, the writer of The Long Halloween.
No way. That's amazing.
So you get to take out your creator.
That's incredible. How that's so fun.
Adding to the Shakespeare. You're taking out.
Yeah, exactly. That's so great.
And next up, we've got Jeph Loeb.
Oh, well, I mean, got to tune in for that.
You heard me right. I'm so excited I got to have that moment revealing who Jeph Loeb is playing to the man who killed him, Adam O'Byrne. I love talking psychology with him. It was a really special conversation about a character I've always been fascinated by the psychology of. I love when actors really look beneath the surface, especially of a character who's very beneath the surface halfway. And it's so dynamic to find a portrayal like his. Wonderful conversation. I want to thank Adam once again. And now let's bring out the man who wrote that very portrayal, the man who made this story 30 years ago and continues to make some of my favorite Batman stories of all time, the one and only Jeph Loeb. I'm sitting down with a man who needs no introduction, but I will give him one because he has brought me some of my favorite comic books with both Long Halloween and Hush, and currently Last Halloween and Hush 2. He has brought me some of my favorite adaptations with Smallville and Daredevil and so many other things. He has brought me some of my favorite movies with Commando and Teen Wolf. The great Jeph Loeb. How are you, man?
Thank you. That was quite an intro. I was hoping you were going to say, and he brings me my lunch. So that part would be
that's
better.
Next, and I can add it to the next interview.
Sure,
Sit down with accolades. Now, I adore Long Halloween. I think it's one of the most formative comics in the history of comic books.
Thank you. That's quite a say.
Truly iconic because it's a thing that we see adapted, and people that don't know Batman know Long Halloween, even anecdotally. And I'd love to know what the process was of bringing that book together for the first time with Tim Sale. How did that collaboration land Long Halloween?
We actually, before then, had done 3 Halloween specials. And every time I did one, I thought, well, that's it. I'm not going to be doing Batman ever again. So that was fun. And that was largely because I was working on television shows while I was writing comics. We had done the 3 Halloween specials. And the late, great Archie Goodwin, who unequivocally, to me, will always be the best editor at DC and at Marvel, because he will always be the best writer who worked in comics. And so he approached everything from a story point of view. And Archie was in California, and Tim was in California. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, we probably were at San Diego at the Comic-Con. And Archie said, "Can I have breakfast with you guys?" And I literally, just because I'm an idiot, I had no idea what it was about. I just thought he just wanted to have breakfast. So we sat down, and Archie said, "Do you have any interest in doing more?" And I said, Archie, look, we have this conversation every year. I can handle about 48 pages. I don't really think there's another story in me. And he said, oh, well, I always liked what you did with gangsters. And at the time, I'm thinking to myself, I love gangsters. And I obviously, because you can tell, I've watched The Godfather about 1 million times and Godfather 2 about 1,000,002 times. And so I'm thinking to myself, I would love to write gangsters, but I don't know what this man is talking about. I don't think I've ever written gangsters. And then he dropped the card. Like, he had the ace in his hand and he just was like, this is 21 right now. He says, so I was talking to Frank, and there's only one Frank. You don't have to say anything more. If you're talking Batman, it's Frank Miller. He said, I was talking to Frank and I said to him, the characters that are in year one, the peripheral characters, do you plan on revisiting any of them? And Frank said, no. If someone wants to take a story about Carmine Falcone, then, please go and do that. And I went, what? And he said, yeah. He just said, you can have anybody in the book. Wow. And, obviously Gordon and Batman and Bruce were already there and Catwoman were there, but Frank created the idea of what organized crime looked like. We always heard about it. But in the first Batman stories, the Joker was in the first Batman story. So what happened before then? Mm-hmm. And all of that is in year one. So anyway, now cutting back to this breakfast. So he says, I think that there's a story in you that's more than 48 pages. I think there's a story that could be longer. I don't know how long, but, just think about it and think about those characters. And I sat literally through the rest of the breakfast going, he just sort of handed me the keys to the Batman Kingdom in year one.
Those are pocket aces. That's incredible.
And I was like, how am I going to say no to this? So went home, started thinking about it. In the original proposal is actually in the Absolute Edition. It's like a 10-page outline of which very little is what the story is. But one of the key things was that there was no holiday. It was Calendar Man. And I thought that'd be cool. We could tell a story about how Calendar Man, when he was younger, was a serial killer. And then as he got older, he turned into something else. And Archie called and said, you can do it if that's what you want to do. But I think you have an opportunity to create your own villain and be part of the mythos in your own way. I suddenly realized this was going to be this opportunity to tell this murder mystery. And in fairness, there were some other people, because nothing happens in a vacuum. I love the idea of it going from October to October. And the first holiday would be Halloween. And so it would end on Halloween. That seemed like a good idea. And it was Mike Friedrich, who at the time he's a writer of some note. At the time, he was an agent for Tim. And he said, I think the 2 bookends should be 48 pages. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a super cool idea. But now that means we're going to do 15 stories, not even 12, because you people forget, if you do October and have another October, that's an extra month.
It's 13 months,
it's 13 months. Of course, math and I are not friends. So, of course, I was like, sure. And so it became that. And then the other key person that I have to give a shout out to is I ran into Mark Waid. Literally, I can't remember where, but it was like a diner. Like, it was the strangest thing. And he said, I hear you're doing something with year one. This is before I'd even started. And I went, yeah. And he said, well, I hope you're going to do something with Harvey Dent. And I was like, why? And he goes, because nobody has. And we all know that he went into the courtroom and got acid thrown in his face, but I'm just throwing that out to you. And it's sudden. And at the same time, I had watched a documentary on the Beatles. And Tim and I were very different people, but we both had the same love of the Beatles and a lot of music and things like that. And I watched this thing, and what I watched was that here were 4 very different people who came together for a purpose, and then it fell apart. And why it fell apart, there's a lot of theories, but I looked at that and I went, wow, I have Batman, Bruce, because I do consider they're different characters, Gordon, and Harvey Dent. and what will break them apart is that Harvey becomes the very thing that they were fighting to keep from happening. He turns bad. And it suddenly was there. It became The Long Halloween.
Wow.
And I was so concerned about whether or not anyone was going to care about the murder mystery. Like because I'd never really written a detective story before. I mean, I know Batman has to go solve a crime, but a murder mystery is a very different, you have to have all kinds of people that are suspects, and then you have to try to like fool the reader. And if the reader gets ahead of you, or if the reader on page 5 goes, well, it's Fred. Well, you're kind of screwed. You have to I have a year's worth of stories. Like, what are we going to do? And we had a guy that was in the shadows who didn't talk. So there were very few clues. And he shot other bad guys. So it was like, okay, so you just introduced Milos, the guy that's the bodyguard, and then you shot him. Like, I could see people like putting down the book and going, I don't really care about that part of the story. And so Harvey's story was originally supposed to, like, Two-Face was supposed to be in issue 3. But as time went by, I kept sort of finding, there's this whole other thing that I could play with, and I kept moving it further and further away. So that's how that happened, and I'm not sure what question I was answering.
You answered a few. I'm like, no, we've been on a journey.
That's kind of how it sort of began.
Incredible. I've wondered that personally for years, and I've known some of the ingredients, but seeing the cake come together, that's wonderful.
Well, it's also what's weird is that you don't know unless you are working on a project. When the first issue comes out, you're on issue 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It's drawn, it's lettered. Like, there's nothing you can do. And so I do my best to sort of go, well, we're off to the races. But I've been very lucky, and I think a lot of that has to do with the talented artists that I worked with.
Speaking of, your collaborations with Tim Sale have brought us not just this incredible, long-lasting story, but I personally am a huge fan of what you did with Spider-Man, what you've done with Daredevil Yellow, even Catwoman When in Rome is such a way to elaborate on that character. There's this depth that happens when you work together. There's this adding of layers to these characters. What was your workflow like that allowed that level of nuance to come, whether it's a short or long form story?
You know, people talk about, first of all, we're talking about somebody who was one of my closest friends and who I considered my partner in many ways, and who I knew my entire comic book career. Like, he was the first guy I ever did anything with. And I literally thought that the Halloween special, which has become the last Halloween 0, would be it was either we were doing the last Halloween together, or after he passed, I thought, well, that's the end of that. We're never going to do another thing together. And it was a nice sort of bookend to our careers. But this is a guy who, he had a love of art and a love of music, and we're both incredible romantics. Like, either one of us would watch Casablanca and call up the other one and go, why couldn't they get together in the end? And that kind of thing made us laugh. But the best way, I was thinking about this because I knew we were going to be talking to each other, and the best way that I can describe it is that we were so close that it wasn't like we finished each other's sentences, but what he did was he finished my thought in art. So I would write a scene and he would draw it, and it would have a life to it that was completely his point of view, but very much what I wrote. And that was the most exciting thing that we ever did. And on The Long Halloween, at that point, we had done about 200 pages together. And you sort of get to know what a person's strength is and what there isn't. I'm amazed. I went back, particularly when I heard that they were going to do an audio version of this. I went back and I read the book, and I was surprised how much what Tim really taught me was set the scene, make sure that the audience knows where everybody is and what the setting is, and then don't worry about it. Go close on the character and drop out the background. Nobody cares. Nobody needs to see the window behind them. They don't need to know where they are in the room. And that helped me enormously because it enabled me to go, oh, I could put more dialogue in here because I'm not really covering up any of the artwork. And he has told me where everything's going to be because I think very cinematically, and that really helps us when we're working together.
There's a romanticism to his art I've always really loved, and Spider-Man Blue is what really made me fall in love with those characters. And then rereading this over and over again over the years, there's such a romance to the crime. There's such a sweepingness that feels like classic film. With his work being so dynamic and you talking about the musicality of your writing, when you got those pages, did you feel that same rhythm that you felt when you were writing, seeing the musicality?
I was talking about this earlier. I tend to write as though it is a symphony. I think it's important. I think there's a rhythm to the page. And it's one of the reasons why I really like artists who draw in order, because I think it gives them an opportunity to see, oh, this needs to be quiet. And then all of a sudden, boom. You can't just have like a splash page that suddenly comes out of nowhere. It has to build to where that is, or a double page spread. And I knew Tim's rhythms really well. And so I knew how to build a story that would do that. And very rarely, but sometimes Tim would go, I need another panel here. I need, in music terms, I need another beat before I can get to the next panel in order to explain what's going on here, or just to give it an emotion. One of the things that I love about Tim's artwork is silence works for him in a big way. Mm-hmm. And so Catwoman would say something, and rather than having Batman say something back to her, we would just have Batman like look down. And that would say more than whatever clever line I thought I was going to come up with. On the other hand, I really do enjoy writing Catwoman. So she just blathers all over the place. And that kind of banter is just great fun. And when you can have that kind of romantic banter, it can be fun. But it also, look, in many ways, it's a story about a family. And it is the opposite story of the Wayne family, which is, Bruce never really gets to know what it's like to know his parents as an adult. He watched them be murdered. And on the other side of the story, the Falcone family is one where, Carmine is this enormous figure who had 3 kids. You don't get to know Mario as well as you do when you get to Dark Victory. But it really is about how Alberto wanted so much to matter. It's the opposite of Marco Corleone in the sense that, Vito Corleone never wanted Michael to be part of the business. And Michael, because he knew in his heart that Michael would be the most dangerous man alive, and he wanted to keep him out of that world. And I looked at it and went, wouldn't it be interesting if the youngest son was in fact a complete failure in his father's eyes, and what could he do to live in that world? And he became the very thing his father hated, which was to become a freak, a villain. One of those.
Yeah, the other side of crime.
The other side.
Yeah.
That really interested me. And then how that then perverted Sophia, who was kind of a monster from the beginning, it was just it's just a family of incredible grossness in terms of what they were doing. But you had to be that way in order to control Gotham City.
Right.
Because I've always believed that say what you want about the Falcone family, Gotham City was a corrupt, cops were corrupt, everything that was going on was corrupt, but it was organized. They knew what they were doing and they had business doing it. And that's all that mattered, was that it was good for business or it was bad for business. That's how they made decisions. Now you bring in a character like the Joker who doesn't care whether or not it's good for business or bad for business. He's just there to create chaos.
Yeah.
And so you realize that these are really two different ways. And the real question is, will Gotham City survive? You know, can it, after for so long being this corrupt place, now suddenly deal with the fact that it has this ongo bongo kind of mentality running around that includes, you know, murders that don't have any kind of reason for them other than to give Batman something to work on.
Yeah.
And that's always the magical question, which is, you know, if Batman didn't exist,
Would the escalation have happened?
Would the freaks exist?
Yeah.
Did it open the door for them, or was that the natural progression of what was going to happen? Because whenever you have any kind of organized situation, chaos is going to break out. It just is.
Yeah.
And so I that's why I can never blame Batman for the Joker or for Two-Face or any of those people. It was inevitable to happen. Thank goodness Batman was there in order to stop it from becoming whatever the next step is.
Now, I love the idea of orchestration. I love the idea of you seeing these characters as almost instruments that come together for this sound, this experience. High Volume is that experience of making sound in these suites out of these characters. It gives me an almost synesthesia when I'm hearing it because I have such an amount of Tim Sale art in my mind. I've read it so many times. I have this movement that happens. When you hear these suites, does it feel like the characters to you when you hear it as an audio version? What's that like?
It's always different when you see it in another medium because they exist in their own world. And so when I found out about an audiobook version of this, I thought, well, I have no idea how that's going to work because it's such a visual medium. How can it paint itself into that? And then I started listening to it, and you know, it's just another way. It's a use of sound, and then the most important part is it's cast brilliantly. I mean, to the point where Jeph Loeb has a part in it, but it's so everyone who plays the role does sort of sound like I had it in my head. And that's just good voice casting and great acting. You know, when I first got the call and they said, look, we're going to do Batman audio, Batman High Volume, I was like, okay, what's that got to do with me? And then they said, we're going to do Batman Year One. I was like, oh, cool. You know, are they going to ask me to do a voice? Like,
Still,
am I going to be Commissioner Loeb? That'll be awesome. Which, by the way, folks, just so we're clear, I did not name him Commissioner Loeb. And when I took over Long Halloween, Archie said to me, do you want to change his name? That was something that Frank did. I think it was a wink from Frank. But it's weird because I don't know how he really sort of was aware of us at that point. But I did get to kill him, and that is on me. That part was fun.
I've wondered for years the chicken and egg of that death. Now,
and so, yeah. And I love the way that Marcella drew him because he was like this little, like, his face looked like a potato that had been mashed. And I went, well, I guess that's how he sees me. But again, getting back to sound and the voices and the story, it just all came together. And so then, you know, they let the cat out of the bag, which was we're not only going to do Long Halloween, we're also going to do Dark Victory. And of course, me being me, rather than saying thank you and can I help in any way, I immediately went to, are you going to do Catwoman When in Rome? Are you going to do the prequels? Are you going to do, I'm also going to be writing a sequel called The Last Halloween. You could do that one. Are you going to do Hush? Are you going to do Hush 2? And I can't imagine the person on the phone just going, who is this guy? Like, I just called him to tell him that we're doing Long Halloween and Dark Victory. He should be doing jumping jacks at this point, or cartwheels, or whatever it is people do. And in fact, I was doing that. I was so excited that this was now going to live in yet another medium. So it's now been this book that Tim and I did 35 years ago, I think. Wow. Now. I mean, when I think about that, it's crazy. It's 95. So what is it, 30 years ago? We just did the 30th edition. The fact that it's still published, let's start there. But
and republished and added to with forwards from Christopher Nolan.
And exactly. But that it also exists as an animated movie, 2 animated movies. And then it's in the real movies, and now it's this audio book, high volume. Like, have at it, guys. Just go, make this whatever it's going to be. And what's really interesting to me is that how protective DC has been at sort of saying that Long Halloween world and those characters are Jeph and Tim's. Like, don't start telling a story that uses those characters. It wasn't intended for that. And because every time we finished one, we went, well, that's it, we're done. But we'd get dragged back into and tell the story. But I mean, unless something miraculous happens and I don't see it, The Last Halloween is the end of the story. It's intended to be the end of the story.
And for me, the use of the gangsters you talked about informing the story and all of those elements remind me of the radio play era. So it was really interesting when I've seen this in so many mediums. This one I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like, it felt like such a linear, like, oh, a radio with gangsters.
Yes,
like, this
exactly.
is totally a thing.
Right, exactly. It's the Shadow.
Yeah.
It's that kind of world.
And I love that Batman got to have the format that feels so Batman that I hadn't yet gotten to experience. Like, it seems like a word-to-word.
Part of it is that, and Tim used to talk about this all the time, which is that even though the story is in continuity, and even though the story is in year one, even though there are, 16 Halloweens, it is, Tim always saw Gotham City like being in the 30s and the 40s. Like, that was why when you look at the architecture, when you look at the cars, he just drew them so that they looked like they were from another time.
Yeah.
And sort of said, yeah, well, Metropolis looks like a city from the future. Why can't Gotham City look like a city that's old? And there are parts of New York City, and certainly parts of Chicago, that were built in the 30s and still look exactly like that. So if you turn right, there's the Flatiron building sitting in front of you, and it doesn't look like anything else that's around it, but it's still there. And so that kind of world, which Tim so loved, really does lend itself to high volume.
Absolutely.
Because visually, you're not thinking about Batman in a high rise, in a glass encased modern kind of thing. You really are sort of thrown back in time, because it allows that for your imagination to be able to do that, so that you can listen to the sounds of the story. And it's why I love that the honking of a car or a siren sounds like something from the past. It doesn't sound like whoop, 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 whoop. Where you sort of go, well, that's weird. There's a 2012 siren in the middle of this story. So yeah.
I also love, and I want to talk about your cameo in just a second, but I also, I really love, actually, I take that back, ongoing role as of the comic I'm about to talk about. With this ongoing role in this production that is now tied into The Last Halloween, I would love to know, firstly, how the ongoing role came to be. And then I'd love to talk about how Last Halloween is in my hands and I'm so happy about it.
Well, the ongoing role, the special guest star, and Jeph Loeb, as I like to refer to it. Again, they had started. I sat at home going, nobody asked me to play a part. And then suddenly the phone rang and they said, listen, we were just wondering, we don't know if you have time. And by the way, I've left out a really important part, which is the folks that made this did not just go off and make this, as often happens when they're making a movie. They sent me every script and asked me if I had time, very politely, if I wanted to give notes or if there was a particular way something was pronounced, that kind of thing. And so they said, there is a scene that's in Labor Day, which is the 9th issue or the 10th issue. I can't remember. It's September. It may be the 11th issue. It's when Harvey is in the hospital after the acid's been thrown in his face. And a doctor comes out and he says, I'm terribly sorry, but he's gone. And they all think, they being like Barbara Gordon and whoever else is waiting to find him coming out of surgery, they think he's gone means he's dead. And the doctor says, no, he's gone. And then keels over and he's got a scalpel in his back. How he got out of the building without anybody recognizing, that's the magic of comics. And they said, do you want to be this unnamed doctor?
Yes.
And I was like, well, as it turns out, that unnamed doctor isn't dead. That unnamed doctor is, in fact, plays a pretty big role in the last Halloween. He actually turns out to be Matthew Thorne, who was the original crime doctor. And it's not a spoiler, guys. It's been out for 6 months. If you're that far behind, shame on you. And he more than once tells the story. He says, I want you to know that I was there the night that Harvey Dent was brought in, and I took the fall for it. And my life was destroyed, but a new life was born out of it, which is classic Batman, which is something tragic happens and something else comes out of it.
And I do want to talk about The Last Halloween because I've talked about that at the end of almost every episode. I'm so happy that it exists. As a diehard fan of the original, to see artists honoring Tim Sale's work in a way that doesn't feel like it's replicating, but honoring is so wonderful for me as a comic fan to see that love poured into the work and for you to get to tell the story. How has it been working with different artists of each issue for your plotting? How has it felt to honor the story?
First of all, our editor, Ariana Totoro, she's really the hero of the story because for an editor to work with one writer and one artist on one story in itself is a miracle. I'm so in awe of the editorial staff at any company. But I will tell you that to come into DC and say to them, look, I want to do something. Originally, just so everybody knows, this was something Tim and I were going to do. The 48-page special, which is now the 0, was the first story. It was the prologue. And then he was supposed to take off from there. And so I had started to write. I had written the first 2 episodes. And Tim had just started their very rough layouts on the first issue. And then he passed. And him passing was like, it was like, he was there and then he wasn't there. And I literally took the scripts, I put them in a drawer and I called DC and I said, we're not doing this. Like, what's the point? And everyone said, that's fine. That's cool. Let's just move on. Life goes on. Mark Chiarello, who is an exceptional storyteller, illustrator, and although he doesn't admit it, editor, who was the art director for 20 years at DC and was, after Archie Goodwin passed away, took over and became the editor on Dark Victory and on Catwoman When in Rome. And Richard Starkings, who is my angel on my shoulder and not just a letterer and designer. He is my secret editor because he reads the scripts before anybody else does and says, this works, this doesn't work, that kind of thing. We all sat around and we said, this is kind of a shame. Like, is the story not going to get told? Like, what are we going to do? And they said, well, what if instead of telling a story that is without Tim, what if it is a story for Tim? And what if what we did was we made a list of artists who Tim respected and admired, and then Marcella put this thought in my head, which still to this day, he said, you just picture Tim in a rocking chair on Pa Kent's porch in Smallville, and he's looking at the collected edition, and every page is one of his favorite artists. And he's just smiling. And he's smiling for two reasons. One, because he gets to see his favorite artist, but two, he knows what a pain in the ass this is going to be for you to put together and work with 10 people that you don't know and try to convince DC that this is actually going to work. And no one has ever created anything like this that's not been an anthology. It's a one continued story with 10 different artists. And then when you throw on the prologue, which is 48 pages by Tim, it's actually a 12-part story, and that is The Last Halloween.
It is absolutely beautiful in both the presentation, what it's for, and the delivery. I'm loving it so far. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all of your work. So formative to my comic love and fandom in multiple mediums. I really appreciate it.
And I say this to everyone who says kind things. It's a partnership. The reality is I'm thanking you. I can't do what I do unless you do what you do. Because if people stopped buying the stories, if people stopped enjoying the stories, that's why I do comic book conventions. It's so that I can meet the people that allow me to continue to tell stories. And I consider myself a storyteller more than anything else. It's not a writer. It's not a musician. It's a storyteller in any medium.
And it translates, and I really appreciate it. Go buy some comics. That is how we support beautiful art, and check out High Volume next week for more of this glory. We'll see you then. I would like to extend my eternal gratitude to Jeph Loeb for making this impossible story. I would like to thank Adam O'Byrne for adding so much to this take on Two-Face, and I would like to thank Marcella Lentz-Pope for finding what a perfect voice for Gilda to reveal to people The Long Halloween if they've read this story all those years ago as I did, or if they're discovering it for the first time. These three incredible artists really brought something special out of DC High Volume, so thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me. Let's talk about some comics. I want to talk about The Last Halloween. This is Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue 0. We talked about this in the interview. This is the issue where Tim Sale brought us so much beautiful art before we lost him. This is the issue that leads into the ongoing Last Halloween we discussed, where a different artist picks up and honors Tim's work every single time they pick up a pencil. It's an honor of him, and that was such a beautiful conversation about that. It all starts right here. So this is issue 0. Highly recommend you check out Last Halloween. I've talked it a number of times, but now I can hold it and show you how wonderful it is. I'd also like to mention Batman and Robin Year 1. I never knew that Mark Waid had any sort of impact or influence on The Long Halloween. It was so cool to hear that Harvey Dent moment from Jeph. And right now, he's writing a book with Chris Samney on art that actually has Two-Face in it. So clearly Mark Waid loves this character. It's also one of the best comics on the shelves right now. Batman and Robin Year 1 is the OG. We're talking Dick Grayson and Batman. We're talking classic stories, but they feel so fresh and so lively with the art from Chris Samney that's so iconic and so colorful, the writing from Mark Waid that is so dynamic and so captivating. Highly recommend that book. These two books, such a wonderful time to be a Batman fan. Check them out. You can check those out on DCUI as well as your local comic shop. DC Universe Infinite is an online comic catalog with tens of thousands of comic books. Those are over there. Please do check that out, as well as checking out your local comic shop. I always recommend people going in, exploring. It's like a candy shop, but comics, less calories, more joy. Check out your local comic shop, and please hunt me down on social media. I'm at Coy Jandreau on YouTube and Instagram. Happy to share some recommendations there. Happy to talk comics with you, so please find me on those. And most of all, I want to thank you, dear viewer, for watching. You are watching this, which allows me to talk to these incredible actors, to this incredible writer. All of this is such an honor that I do not take lightly, so thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us in this special episode of DC High Volume Batman. Executive producers for Realm, Carly Migliori and Roshan Singh Sambi. Executive producers for DC, Mike Pallotta and Victor Diaz. Producer, Adam Boffa. Technical Director, Insung Huang. Engineers, Jason Gambrell and Echo Mountain. Hosted by me, Coy Jandreau. Special thanks to Fred Greenhalgh, Kaylin West, Olivia DeRienzo, Sam Ewing, and to Comic Books for Existing.